Welcome everyone to State of the Game for the 15th of June. This is a bit different because I'm standing in the corner doing camera-y things. But the good thing is I can almost touch you. Anyway, I hope you guys are having a great day so far. We had a maintenance this morning, which I think has some very good news, in my opinion. Anyone that had been dealing with the Midtown Music people in there will not have to deal with that any longer. I'm just going to read that to you. There was an out-of-bounds area created inside Midtown Music that will prevent players from staying inside the environment. A more permanent fix that will prevent access to this area entirely is coming in the next client-side update, which is cool. There's also was a bug with Recovery Link, which was fixed, where it wasn't on the same cooldown as all of your other signature skills. That is fixed now. All right. I am joined today by a couple of folks over at Reflections. All right, hey guys, how you doing?
Hello.
James Arthur, lead game designer, and Mark Russell, both senior game designer or lead game designer?
Senior, depending how well this goes.
All right, all right. Well, we'll have to see. I want to talk about commendations, guys. So, big blanket statement. What are commendations?
Okay, so commendations are they're basically an expansion of achievements, but that's doing a big disservice to them. They're a way to kind of build in a long-term challenge for existing users as well as new users, so they can come in and they can work towards long-term goals. And at the same time, we're also going to reward loyalty. So people that have already played the game for a while, when commendations come online, there'll be a bunch of stuff they'll have already achieved, and that will show. And much like global events, the core is to get players to explore the game a little bit more, maybe push them into areas they might not necessarily play, get them to think about builds, get them to think about talents and play styles, and just try and keep that engagement going on.
Yeah, I think one of the things that people have talked about, especially after the last stream we've done, and they've obviously seen what the ETF has been saying about 1.7 and 1.8, the conversations we had with them then. I think, as a disclaimer, I think it's fair to say, as the ETF has outlined, that 1.8 is more what people would consider a content patch, and 1.7 is more, well, you could consider it content, is mainly focused on features, which we've shown some of. We're showing a little bit more today. Fair. I think, is that a fair summary?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. With 1.7, we're looking to re-engage what we've got and make it feel a bit fresher and newer, and 1.8 is the big kind of the content drop. Commendations,
some of them will be retroactive, correct?
Yes.
On that, I think it's fair to say that given the breadth of the commendations, which we will be talking about more in a second, not everything has been tracked in the way that it would need to be retroactive. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's absolutely true. Like we're looking at like maybe 500 commendations.
All right, that's
quite a lot. And obviously we haven't tracked all of them since the game launched. The way we're looking at it right now is to put everyone on even keel when they start. It's going to be anything that you can't do again, anything that's part of the game that you really should have some kind of achievement for, but is non-repeatable. That will be retroactively applied, but everything else is mostly going to start on at 0. You're going to have to work through that again. Okay. But it does put everyone on an even keel. Part of the reason that's we think that's okay is that you're going to get some kind of view on how everyone else is doing on their commendations, and that means that it becomes a kind of a view on how good you're doing in the game and your progress.
That leads me to one of my other questions. We're going to cross over to Gabe, who's doing some star jumps. Hopefully you guys can still hear me. Yeah, anyway. So, Gabe, could you just take us into what people will experience as the commendations menu? We can see that they're split up into 8 categories as it stands right now. Some of them complete, some of them not. We have some of the general ones completed, the missions completed. Obviously, things like if you have hit level 30 and a commendation asks you to hit level 30, we're not going to have to do that again, is that correct?
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. Great. Some of the other questions I had, so I can talk a little bit about this, and you guys can talk about it more, is that there will be some rewards tied to this, which is really, really cool. Vanity things. We can talk about some of that today, and we are going to be able to say that there will be a new vanity slot for the patches. Correct?
Yeah.
All right.
Yes.
All right. So obviously, I would love if Tom were here to talk about it, because I know that he's super passionate about those things. But if people kind of see, people know it from, the agent, that on your arm you have the Phoenix logo, correct? By default. But you will be having other patches that you earn through commendations, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, they're exclusively through commendations as well.
Okay, so if someone's like complete badass in the Dark Zone, they will be, able to tag themselves as such.
Yeah, they'll have patches that other people won't have access to, for sure.
Cool. What are some of your favorite ones that you've seen Tom has cooked up?
Oh, well, my favorite one is, the art gallery in Survival?
Yeah.
Spend 3 minutes looking at the pictures in Survival.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
There's simple funny ones like tactical neck, which is like just equip a turtleneck.
Perfect
or like
neck.
tired yet, which is like, I think it's like shoot 100 tires out,
Okay.
stuff like that.
Yeah, for the people wondering, there is a car door achievement, correct? Yeah. A commendation, rather. I don't know exactly the numbers that there are for it. I'll see if Gabe can find it. He's going through a few of those at the moment. The question is, and I think this one's worth talking about. Zion Nevi is asking, why do we need this?
It's that kind of long-term engagement, right? Like, so when commendations go live, there'll be a patch you really want, right? And if you really want that patch, you might have to do something to go and get that patch. There's also the fact that we want to push you to areas like, let's say you're not really into survival, but there's a really cool patch. Maybe you can go and play that and get the patch. And then through doing that, you actually, this is a really cool game mode. I'm really switched on with this.
Yeah.
It's also not just the patches, because we've got the commendation score that goes with the commendations as well. Each commendation counts towards a score. Okay. And that score is also going to appear on the kill screen in the Dark Zone. So if someone shoots you, you're going to see their patch and their commendation score as well. So you'll know, if they've got a low commendation score, you've kind of been killed by a noob. That's not so good. If they got high commendation score, maybe you feel a little bit better about yourself. Yeah. So maybe you want that patch as well.
I mean, as soon as like the ETF guys see this, like the first things they're like, oh my God, your score's way higher than mine. What have you done in game that I've not done? And then they were like desperate to go and do that to get their commendation score up.
Exactly.
So it's quite a cool kind of peacock show-off mechanic as well.
Yeah.
And we know that
exactly.
Everyone's 256 in the Dark Zone anyway, so this is another layer on top of that.
Well, sure. I remember one of the questions that we had come up when we were talking about this thing is, what happens if you jump on another character? Are people going to see an account-wide commendation score or a per-character commendation score, right? Because you don't want to go in and be like a complete... Well, I mean, the situation I think people brought up was, well, what if I'm on an alt and I want to run heroic stolen signal and my commendation score is 0? People are going to kick me from the group, right?
For sure.
That won't happen, from my understanding?
It's definitely account-wide.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So people will still know how much you've completed, or a correlation between how kind of involved you are in the game. So,
and again, this ties in with the Dark Zone. If someone's running, if someone's in a lower Dark Zone area, they're running 192s or something for whatever reason, but they've actually got a really high commendation score. You know that they're running
kind of trolling.
Yeah, they're kind of trolling for some reason.
Okay.
Or vice versa. If someone's just reached that kind of level, you kind of know what level they're at.
Mm-hmm. I saw also in the gameplay, Gabe, I don't know if you can find it as well, that there's a little medal icon, but also a little Uplay icon. What am I seeing when I'm looking at that?
Oh, well, some of the commendations are actually linked to the first-party achievements that you have as well. So we've got Uplay and the PlayStation and Xbox achievements as well. So those ones will be doubled up with the commendations as well. Fantastic. It all rolls into one package.
Okay, very cool. Explain how there are tiers. Yes. Okay, so there are tiered rewards. Gabe, can you find one of those? So looking at this, we're looking at Bank of New York, which is a pretty simple one. Have amount of credits. I don't know what the top tier one is. It's pretty high, but then again, there are a lot of people that have a lot of credits right now. So those sorts of things. Will you get rewards for completing the final tier, or will you get rewards along the way? Do you guys know about that?
You will get some form of reward for every single feat you complete. So you'll get rewards along the way. And then for a big tier 1, you may get another reward.
Anyway, guys, I'm going to let you head off now before I wrap this up. Thanks again for joining me. Even Tom in spirit will have to make sure he is thanked for his beautiful presence. Anything you guys want to add before we head off? Have I forgotten anything that we need to talk about?
I think we're okay.
Okay.
I think we've covered it quite comprehensively.
Great. PTS, that is exactly why I want to finish off this stream, to have a moment with you guys. Because, yes, we are still on track for the PTS. The date is getting closer, although it's not locked just yet, so we don't have a date for you today. Console PTS will be happening. They are talking with the first parties about those things right now, as well as getting all the builds and things sorted for that. So, I mentioned it before. I managed to have a conversation with Keith Evans over at Redstorm as he was entering the office today, so a couple of hours ago. And one of the big questions that I put to Keith was, Deadeye and Seeker, are there things that we're going to test during the PTS to see some changes there? Happily, I can say that we will be testing some changes to both of those. So I'm really, really excited for the next PTS to see how far we can push those to be a little bit more in line with everything else. So the build diversity that we have is a little bit fairer. Even though we are in an age where we have a lot of build diversity, I do think Seeker and Deadeye do need to be looked at, and I think that there are a lot of people out there that agree with me. So I've noticed, obviously, if you paid attention to the maintenance this morning, the Midtown thing is fixed. People going outside of the map there. There's a teleport volume in there now, so they will not be able to stay in there. There will be a more permanent fix for that in the future, even though this is permanent. But, we needed to get this fix in to stop it, since we can do that server side, but there will be a client-side fix to make sure that that is robust in the next client patch. There is a weekend event, and I actually have, if I can find it with my extra mouse here, there will be a special event weekend starting tomorrow. And you get extra rewards from the name bosses, so that is super cool. Be a lot of fun for the weekend. Go grind some more gears. What about the lag? So I was mentioning on the forums earlier, that's one of the, obviously the continued conversations that people have, and rightly so. There's a situation, obviously, where people need to, there's a trade-off, right, between matchmaking times and server populations. So we are definitely looking, so I talked with some server engineers about it, if there are some ways that we can optimize that current thing in terms of priorities, but we will need to decide which of those is the priority. So one of the threads that we were talking about was some Australian folks who obviously have to wait a while if they are dedicating themselves to staying on the Sydney data center. Do we want to have a trade-off between making it so they only attach to that one and they have to wait for X amount of time? Or would they rather have shorter queues and slightly lower pings, potentially? Take it easy, everyone. See you later.